last night I was at a coffee shop getting some work done, and there were three young gentlemen sitting right near me, and I couldn't help but overhear some of the conversation. And I can just tell very quickly they were very entrepreneurial, that they are very ambitious, and they were sharp. And there's so much about that dialogue that was reminding me of myself when I was that age at around 25 years old. And when they were closing down the coffee shop, as I was leaving, I was just like, you know what? I wonder if, God put us at this table for a reason. So I'm just going to strike up a conversation with these young gentlemen. And I said, it's like, hey guys, sorry to interrupt. I couldn't help but overhearing, but would you mind sharing with me, like, what is the business that you guys are working on? And right then and there, the conversation started to grow and started to, gain some momentum as they closed the doors of the coffee shop and we stood outside for 45 minutes about, their dream around starting this new business around financing and mortgages and lending. And, we talked a little bit about my experiences in my first business in real estate. And they were, they're really taking the opportunity to pick my brain, which I really respected. And I just told them how much I admired their energy and their vision and their passion. I can just tell that they have a lot of things that are there, a lot of exciting things that they are working on, and there's so much ahead of them. But of course, because of the work that I've been doing over 13 years, working with high achievers, very similar to them, I couldn't help but just, try to shine some light on the possibility that the thing that they, because they introduced the fact that they've had something that's been working for a number of years, but they want to add another income stream, they want to diversify, they want to do something new, and I couldn't help but challenge that even just a little bit and, wonder, is this a distraction? Because I shared a couple of stories with them that I would love to share with you in this video today about clients I've worked with who were looking outside of the thing that was right in front of them, their business, thinking that that was the solution, that was the answer, that's the highest ROI. And one of the things that I really challenged them on was, what if the thing that's been feeding you for these numbers of years, the thing that has been producing results for you, is the thing that you need to leverage, is the thing that you need to double down on? And it's just a matter of really taking a different look at it, because, man, it costs a lot to take the foot off the gas pedal of something that's been working, or even just split your attention to try and start momentum in something brand new. And now I'm not trying to, rob them of their dream or to take away some of that excitement, but just to like take a pause for a second. Because I think, especially when I was in my 20s, I was definitely in a hurry. But yeah, ever since that conversation last night, it really has had me meditating on, what would I say to myself at their age? What advice would I give to the 25-year-old version of myself that I saw in them? But before we get into it, if you, my friend, are in a place where you are questioning your next move, if you feel like you're being pulled in different directions and you're wondering what's next, I would love for you to book a guidance session with me using the link below. It's about creating a sacred space for you so that you could find your footing, so you could really tune into the direction God is leading you towards and help you find some alignment. Use the link below. Would love to have a guidance session with you and help create some clarity and direction. So when I look at that 25-year-old version of myself, I think one of the first things that I would say is stop obsessing about the vehicle and focus on the direction. And so the reason why I say this is because there are so many sexy, attractive strategies. There are so many different complex and intricate ways of doing business. And sometimes there's a part of us that thinks the more complicated, the more esoteric it is, the more valuable it's going to be. And I think, trying to be super nuanced and so detailed about the vehicle might have us lose touch with the fact that the whole point of this vehicle is to take us from point A to point B. We need to start thinking about more of like, what direction am I headed in? And then maybe ask, is this vehicle the appropriate vehicle to get me closer to that destination towards where I'm headed? So I think when we are looking at, a lot of the clients that I work with, real estate could be investing as an agent, as a wholesaler, as a flipper, as a lender. There's actually so many ways of doing that. When it comes to online business, there's digital products, there's digital services, there's social media, and even within these businesses, the strategies to grow them and to implement them can be so overwhelming. I think we can get lost in the sauce in that way. We can lose touch with the fact that the whole point is we're trying to utilize these paths and these strategies to move us in a particular direction. And especially when it comes to the guys that I was talking with last night, I wonder, is it the opportunity that's right under your nose, is that actually the thing that's going to unlock the next level for you? Like, for instance, one of my clients, something that I'm super excited about for him is that when we started working together, he had about a dozen different projects, whether it was speaking or a clothing brand or coaching or fitness. He had all these different interests. And when we broke it down, it was just this like avoiding commitment. It was having an excuse if one of those failed. Well, we had the story of, well, because I'm not fully all in, that's probably why this thing didn't fail, as opposed to what would happen if you really went all in. And what's so amazing is when he found his footing, which was being more of a creative and using the gift of his storytelling, of his voice, of his commentating, that is the thing that grew. And as that has gained so much more steam, the other stuff like speaking and interviewing and clothing line, all these things started to open up for him. So sometimes these dreams that we have them for a reason, and we feel when we're in our mid-20s, we're in a rush for them all to happen right now, when sometimes when you put first things first, you realize you're already headed in that direction anyways. That stuff is already going to start pouring in anyways. So I think it's so important that we realize that the direction that we are headed in is of far greater importance than the particular vehicle and the specifics about that vehicle. The next thing that I would say, this is a personal one. Maybe you could relate to this. If you were going to give yourself some advice, a 25-year-old version of yourself, I say travel more. Be adventurous, meet more people. I really do think I was very, very serious in my 20s. I was all about business. I was hyper-focused. It was at the cost of many, many things. Of course, I had some fun, but probably not the level of fun that I could have, especially as I look back at what I may have missed out on. And so I think, our 20s are such a great opportunity for us to explore and to mess around and make mistakes and just be in this discovery process. I think a part of us that's so ambitious wants to use our 20s because they feel so precious that we want to use it to build something that where we are trying to gain some sort of momentum that we feel like we would lose. And actually, as I'm saying that, I think I remember overhearing part of their conversation. Like, if I pause, if I take a break, I'll lose momentum, or I'll lose the energy, or I won't be able to regain that. So, to me, it's similar to what I've talked about before, where it's productivity, but it's masking scarcity underneath. To travel, to be adventurous, to meet people is about helping you understand what's happening in the world, what's happening in different parts of the world. How do they live? How does that shape how I see myself and how I see the world and what I want for myself? And so I think, this taps into who we're becoming, and this level of movement in life really contributes to the amount of play. And so that brings me to the next thing. honestly, one of the things that I've been playing so small in, and one of the things that I have been hiding, and it's a deep regret. Like, it actually really does hurt me, because my advice to my younger self would say, play more music and make more stuff. I think I have this passion, and I have this creative outlet, but also, it has been pouring out in different ways. Writing a book, creating a business, there's ways that uses my creativity, of course. But music, it's just art for art's sake. It's just self-expression. It's just bringing joy. It's helping move people, in different emotions and ways of feeling. So I feel like if I could go back, I would tell myself, share your music and share more of your voice, and make stuff and release stuff, because time passes by anyways. I constantly look back, at the end of each year, and I look back with regret with how much work I didn't release. There's a body of work that's still inside of me that I didn't birth. So I would say, put in the hours, publish the videos, write the books, write more music, release the music, perform, be on stage. Because I think there's a level of fear of judgment and inadequacy that I held myself back from doing those things. So I think those are all real things to contend with. But I would say to that younger version of myself, and those three dudes, to whatever those other hidden passions are, the forms of play, like, don't lose touch with that. Don't lose touch with those things that make you come to life, because really that childlike wonder and awe inside of us is really what we try to regain. For the rest of our lives, we're trying to circle back. We're trying to pull that part of ourselves back into the present moment. And let me take a sip of water. I think the next piece of advice that I would say is, I think you gotta share your voice even before you feel like you're ready, because all of the level of vulnerability that it takes to share your story, to share your wisdom, to teach more, I think we undervalue and we underestimate the impact of that, because it's our own personal experience, is our lived experience. We diminish that when we compare it to other people, but that completely forgets the fact that there are some people who are only a few steps behind us that might need that tiny little gem. Like these guys from last night, if I undervalued my experiences and my story and what I've gone through and how I've helped people, maybe there's a gem, maybe there's something that I said or something that I pointed out that might affect the trajectory of their life. I mean, God knows that there was an early conversation that I had with a friend from university, and he messaged me many, many years after. And this is before I was a coach and before I was even thinking about that, but I was just passionate and excited for him. And he said, Oliver, that coffee shop date that we had, and you're telling me get into sales. I went on Google, found a sales job, got that job. 3 years later, started my own shop, and we have 20 employees, and we cracked our first 7 figures, and none of this would have been possible if it wasn't for that one piece of advice that you gave me and that I followed through on. So you have no idea the power of one conversation. And so I think the last thing is, we're probably so used to maybe that the idea, if I was going to go to my younger self, what advice would I give them? But I want to turn it around a little bit, because I think there would be so much to gain if I could reach back to that younger version of myself and take something for myself in this present moment. Those traits, those qualities, those attributes of that younger version of myself. Or like these guys, I'd like to channel some of the energy that they have, which is like just speed, just less friction between thought and action. the ability to move forward with no apologies, you know? And I think being naive about and not having expectations or attachments to outcome and just thinking, why not? Let's just try it. Like we have like nothing to lose. I think one of the biggest drawbacks of, you know, getting to know yourself through a self-discovery process, one of the drawbacks of having created some results in your life path, in your business path, is now that you have benchmarks to compare from, and when you don't meet them, it feels awful. And when we try to set goals, we're always trying to outmatch some past thing that we've done, as opposed to like that absolute freedom when you're a white belt, when you are completely brand new in something. So it's almost like, I feel like as the older I have gotten, the more I tend to hold myself back, if that makes sense. Like the more self-conscious I've become. and even more so, it's almost like not even just physically, but like the older I get, the slower I've gotten, you know? Just like my ability to move on something, to capitalize something. There's just so much more friction. There's so much more internal judgment. There's so much more comparison compared to when I didn't even know better. I was able to just gain some motion. So I wouldn't just try to give myself advice, that young version of myself. I would try to channel some of that youthful vigor, some of that fire, because I know it's so easy. Like I could look at old videos of myself and cringe and be like, oh, I can't even believe I talk like that. I can't believe I said those things. But also there's like this willingness, there's an adventurous spirit, But my friend, you know, ultimately, I think what's so important here is just remembering that your path isn't yours and your gifts aren't yours. Your purpose isn't yours. It's all God's. You're just the steward. You're not the owner. And I think we can get so sucked into like, what do I want? How do I want it to look like? What is my path? What are my gifts? How is it going to turn out for me? What can I gain from it? But I think if we start to shift the language a little bit, like ask ourselves, what does God want to do through me? What does God want to accomplish, unlock, create through me? For myself, that is beginning to shift nearly everything. So my friend, if you're caught in your own level of indecision, maybe shiny object syndrome, or maybe starting to realize that the real opportunity is already in your hands and you'd like somebody to hold a space for you to really recognize and really capitalize on the thing that's right in front of you, I would love to hold a sacred space for you to be with your truth, to be able to reconnect with what really matters with one of my guidance sessions. You can use the link below to schedule yourself in. We will slow down. We will tune into the big picture. We will uncover the path forward. And this is not just about you. This is about who you are here to serve with your gifts, with your skills, with your talents. Because maybe, you know, just maybe, you don't need to blow things up. You don't need to start everything all over. You just need to see yourself and the path in front of you clearly.